Okay, so today in class we talked about mean absolute deviation. So for homework tonight you have one definition where you have to tell me what mean absolute deviation is, and then you have 4 problems where you're going to have to create the chart and find the mean absolute deviation for those data sets. So what is mean absolute deviation? Mean absolute deviation is of a data set is the measure of the average distance between each data point and the mean. So when we're talking about mean absolute deviation, we're talking about on average, how far away is each data point from that middle average number. So why do we calculate the mean absolute deviation? We calculate it because it tells us what type of variation we have in the data set. If we have a high mean absolute deviation, then that means we have a lot of variation. If we have a really low mean absolute deviation, we have not a lot of variation. It's telling us that either the data points are really closely together or they're far away. So how to calculate? If we're looking for the average distance away from the mean, the first thing that we need to calculate is the mean. So step 1 is find the mean of the total data set. Then you're going to find the distance between each data point and the mean. Lastly, you're going to find the average or the mean of those distances. Okay, so find the mean, find the distance between each data point and the mean, and then average those distances. So we talked today in class about using a mean absolute deviation chart to help us organize our work, and that's exactly what I need to see on your homework. So you have 4 sets of data, so you should be coming in with 4 different mean absolute deviation charts for tomorrow. In the first column of your chart is the data column. The second column is where you're going to put the mean for the whole data set. This column is where you find the difference between the data point and the mean. And then over here, we're going to put our positive values because when we're talking about distance, it's going to always be positive. So for homework question 1, your data set is 80, 85, 72, 74, and 74. Okay. So to find the mean of this data set, what we're going to do is we're going to take all of these numbers and then add them together and then divide by 5 since there's 5 numbers in our data set. So the average or the mean for the whole data set is 77. Difference tells us to subtract the data points from the mean or to find their distances. So if we do 80 minus 77, we get 3. And then the positive value of 3 is 3. 85 minus 77 is 8. The positive value of 8 is 8. 72 minus 77 is negative 5. The positive value, we're doing positives because we're talking about distance, a value of negative 5 is positive 5. 74 minus 77 is negative 3, positive value 3. 74 minus 77 is negative 3, positive value 3. Okay, all right, so now we found all of our distances. So this is the distance that each data point is away from that mean. Now, mean absolute deviation wants the average distance. So to get the average distance, we're going to take that positive value column and we're going to find the average. We're going to add them up and then divide by how many there are. So when we add them up, we get the sum of 22. We know we have 5 pieces of data in our data set. So our count is 5, and so we're going to divide that number by 5. We get 4.4 as our mean absolute deviation. So that tells us that each number is either 4.4 points above or below the average. Okay. So what I need from you guys is I want you guys to do the exact same thing on your own paper. I want you to make a mean absolute deviation chart for each of the last 3 problems. All right, good luck.